Well, you know what your meals now being a dietitian, like I see what's going on behind the scenes, and I know like your macronutrient layout is pretty much duplicated through each meal. And the beauty of it, it allows your customers to not have to worry about counting calories, not have to worry about if extra things are in there, and they can have faith in knowing that they're also big creativity, because you have at least how many meals a week that are different?
5 different meals a week, and it rotates every week for a month, and we introduce seasonal things. So I would say we have about 25 different meal options that we cycle through.
With the same macronutrient layout.
Yeah.
And to me, that builds trust in the customers, because, again, they're not having to worry about that. And so to me, when I realized that, it's like, okay, he is on the right path. It's something that's unique. I haven't heard of that before. And it's like, okay, I get it. I'm bald. Now let's just find a way that we can get everybody else to see that. So talk a little bit like how you decided to, and what your macronutrient layout is, and why you chose that balance, and cause to me, that's not only the thing that helps you that stands out, but it's one of the things that I saw that stood out, because again, it's being intentional. You were totally intentional in that.
Yeah. I mean, a couple ways to talk about that. One, in terms of the intentionality, I know for myself, having been through like the health, nutrition, fitness phase, and I'm still in it. Like I used to use MyFitnessPal, and like I was pretty dedicated, but it's a chore. It's hard. Like,
it's an extra piece.
and like it's an extra piece, and if you have to input it every time, it's like, it creates this like cycle of like anxiety of like, okay, I gotta not only measure my food, I gotta like now put it into this. And so I wanted to create something that was actually truly convenient and free people from that kind of like choice anxiety.
Okay.
And so I was like, well, what's the easiest way to do that? Well, the easiest way to do that is to just make sure that you're getting the same amount of food every single time. How hard can that be? Now, it's hard because there's a reason why other companies don't do it. And I'm going to talk about that. Yeah, like you said, that's what makes us stand out, because every single meal, if you know exactly how much it is every single time, not only if you like keeping track of macros and stuff like that, you also know how you're going to feel every single time and how your body responds to it, right? And then you can always adjust and add as needed. If it's different every single time, how are you ever going to figure out what is right for you? And then I will say on top of that, like one of the more difficult things that we do, and which is why most meal companies, and actually I can't even think of one that does it, but like if you go look at other meal companies, and that's one of the ways that besides like, this is just personally what I did in terms of making sure all the nutrients are the same, because it's just easy for me to track and I can become lazy. I don't want to have to deal with it. It's like my frustration with like eating out or eating from other meal companies is like, one thing is this, one thing is this, one thing is this. It's like so many different things. But I understand it's hard. Like if I pair white rice with broccoli with chicken, I have to tweak the amount of broccoli and the white rice and the chicken so that the protein in the white rice doesn't overpower the protein. So let me walk through it. So let's say it's chicken, white rice, and broccoli. All right. I first always do the vegetable, because that's what I want you to eat.
Okay.
It's always at least a cup of that vegetable. So there I have to backtrack. All right, how many carbs and protein is in that vegetable? Okay. Then next is the carb portion. So white rice, let's say I put that there. Then I have to, so say a cup of broccoli is like 11 grams of carbs. Well, then we measure out the white rice to account for the other 25 grams of carbs to make sure we hit the 36 that we say that we're going to hit.
Yes.
But white rice also has protein in it. And it's got like 4 grams of protein in it or something like that. Maybe 5. It might be a little higher. I don't remember off the top of my head. But then broccoli and white rice have protein. It's up to like 9 grams. Okay, well, so I'm not giving you 28 grams of chicken. I have to give you 20 grams of chicken to offset for that. And then there's the whole fat portion through it.
Oh my
so
goodness.
it's like more complicated than people think. And so we take the time to like do that. Obviously, it's not perfect. Like we're probably, give or take, 5 to 10% off. But again, like, and that's one of the things you and I talk about all the time. It's like, if I'm 5 to 10% off on your white rice, broccoli, and chicken, you have way more things to worry about, right? It's not like I'm 5 to 10% off and feeding you lasagna and pizza. Okay, then you have like something to worry about, And it's funny, I was a little harsh on a customer once, because like that is my business, right? My business is to make sure I provide you exactly what I say, or as close to what I say, right? Especially if you're keeping track of macros, and like if you have certain weight loss goals, right? We don't market ourselves or brand ourselves as something that's weight loss, right? But if you're using our meals to help you do that, awesome, right? I want to be able to help with that. So, he/she complained like it seemed like there was a little bit more food. And I remember I was a little overzealous because like I want my customers to eat well sometimes,
Yeah.
And so I sent her back an email. I was like, you're not going to get fat or like, but when I thought about it, I apologized to her. I was like, you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm sorry. But then it spurred this whole conversation of like, okay, how do I get it out to just people in general that like, look, guys, if you are within 10% and you like to keep track, if you're within 10%, you're doing great. If you're within 20%, like say like you eat my meals 3 meals a week, 6 days a week. So that's 18 out of the 21 meals you're going to eat for the week. And then the other 3 meals, you eat whatever you want. You're doing great. You're doing great.
Step back and look at the bigger
Yeah,
picture.
just look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Creativity aspect, and this is something I do like to, I want to talk about because I think people have the wrong idea, and this applies to just like the restaurant industry in general.
Okay.
Is I don't think people understand, and I'm not going to mince words, or appreciate the amount of thought and work that goes into creating a menu or like creating a plate of food for you, right? So we get a lot of complaints, and it's always just like one complaint, and then I explain it and people are like, oh, okay, we get it. Like, okay, Ken, how come you only use like broccoli, shredded cabbage, a lot of kale, cauliflower? Like, how come you don't use like green beans and asparagus, string beans, spinach? We don't use spinach.
Okay.
And the reason behind that is I have to think for you in terms of, okay, well, this meal comes in a box. Some of them you're not going to get to in 6 days. So is that vegetable going to last after I've cooked it for you in that box for 6 days? Spinach will not. Plus, spinach turns into like a soggy mess and tastes real tinny if you microwave it. So that's the second thing.
Wow.
Will the food microwave? Kale is a great vegetable. It's super resilient. It will handle itself well under high heat, even in the microwave. Broccoli, you'll still retain that texture, that crunchiness. You'll still retain the greenness of it when you put it in the microwave, and it will last 6 days. So there's a lot of intentionality behind the ingredient choices we pick, So like, why sweet potatoes over white potatoes? Well, white potatoes, we have tried to use them, but like I give you like a crispy potato, right? You want to eat it hot. Otherwise, it's not good. It doesn't stay crispy, right? Also, the starches within white potatoes tend to become gluier once you,
Yes.
for lack of a scientific explanation, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but the starch becomes gluier once you re-microwave it. Versus sweet potatoes, it doesn't have that effect. So that's why we use sweet potatoes instead of white potatoes.
So much thought behind
So
that.
there's like a lot of thought behind the ingredients we choose because it needs to, one, taste good, right? Always. Obviously, the way we cook it to be healthy, but also like it needs to hold well in your fridge. It needs to reheat well and retain all its flavor and texture. So it's not just as simple of like, okay, well, Ken's being lazy and doesn't want to cook me spinach and asparagus. Part of it is also like a business decision, right? If I have to cook spinach for 500 meals, we all know like you grab a bag of baby spinach, throw it in your pan, see how much of it is left
much
after
you
you've
lose.
cooked it. It's so sad. It's like one of the saddest things in life. Like you grab this like huge handful, stick it in,
looks
and then
like
all of a
this.
sudden it's like in the palm of your hand. So obviously from a business perspective, it's not like cost efficient, but there's more
That's-
to it than that.
That's pretty cool. Like,
So
I was really curious as to what you were going to say about how to answer those questions, and it just makes so much sense behind like how much thought you put behind it, and I'm sure when you tell those customers, they're probably even more on board because the fact that you took the time to experiment and know like what's going to be sustainable for them. Like if they're investing in six meals, you don't want that fifth and sixth one to go to waste. Like you're trying to
Exactly.
make sure that their food is sustained for their price, So I think that was like, that's something that right there alone is another thing that it stands out because you have thought ahead of that and you're making sure that the quality is not compromised and even the quality and nutrients as well. You know, things are not degrading, and that, again, it still tastes good.